it!
Buzz, buzz, buzz. A waitress wipes down table 12 and freezes. The phone left behind flashes one name, Richard Cole, CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire now plastered across the bar's TV. Cole Dynamics collapsing, CEO missing. Then the screen lights up again. Unauthorized access detected. Transfer in progress. $47 million. $47 million. Vanishing. Right now. She's holding the only device that can stop it. And the next choice she makes will decide whether a stranger loses his company, or she loses her freedom. Would you answer that call? While Ava stared at the screen, somewhere above the city, the man whose name was on that phone was already losing everything. Ava almost didn't. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I'll be giving you another story just as wild as this one. Now back to our story. 47 floors above the city, Richard Cole was drowning. Papers covered his desk like confetti after a nightmare party. Coffee cups formed rings on financial reports. His tie hung loose. His hair stood at angles that would make his PR team weep. 52 years old. Built an empire from code and vision. And now he couldn't find his phone. Sir, the investors need confirmation in 6 hours. His assistant hovered in the doorway, voice tight. Without your authentication codes. I know. 2 words. Barely controlled rage at himself. 1 phone. 15,000 jobs. The math was brutal and simple. He'd torn apart his car. Emptied his briefcase 3 times. Called the restaurant. No answer. Of course no answer. It was nearly midnight. Richard stared at the skyline. Somewhere out there, his entire future sat on a table he couldn't remember the name of. Back at the restaurant, the phone rang. Private number. Ava's thumb hovered. Every instinct screamed. Not your problem. You've got enough problems. Walk away. But her grandmother's voice echoed. Character is what you do when nobody's watching, baby girl. She answered. Hello. Someone left this. Thank God. A man's voice cracked through the speaker. Desperate, nothing like the polished CEO from magazines. I need that phone now. Where are you? I'm sending. Wait, I'm at Rosie's Diner on 5th. Stay there. 20 minutes. Click. Ava stared at the deadline. Her heart hammered. She should have just said yes and waited. Simple. Easy. Not her circus. The screen lit up again. Not a call this time. A notification that stopped her breathing. Urgent. Unauthorized access detected. Financial systems breach. Transfer in progress. $47 million. $47 million. Vanishing. Right now. What would you do? Comment below. Would you get involved or walk away? Because what Ava did next changed everything. Her fingers moved before her brain caught up. She swiped through the security logs. Her hands remembered commands her conscious mind had buried. Navigate, isolate, trace. The interface felt like coming home to a house you'd abandoned. She'd quit college 3 years ago. Not failed. Quit. Her mother's hospital bills didn't care about her 3.9 GPA. Her brother's future didn't wait for her scholarship to kick in. So she made a choice. She walked away from the person she was becoming to save the people she already loved. Some sacrifices don't feel noble. They just feel like drowning in slow motion. But the skills, those stayed. She navigated through security alerts she had no business understanding. The breach was sophisticated. Proxy servers, layered tracks, timed for maximum chaos. Professional. Calculated. Internal. Her blood went cold. This wasn't some random hacker in a basement halfway across the world. The access point was inside Cole Dynamics. Someone with credentials. Someone trusted. Someone who knew exactly when Richard Cole would be vulnerable. The timestamp trail told the story. Unauthorized transfers initiated 20 minutes ago. Routed through 3 shell accounts. Destination: offshore. Untraceable in another 40 minutes. Ava grabbed her own phone. Dialed the number that just called. 1 ring. 2. Yes. Sharp. Impatient. A man at the edge. Mr. Cole. Her voice steadied. Forget the car. Someone's stealing from you right now. And if we don't stop them in the next hour, your company dies. Silence. Then, who is this? My name is Ava. I'm a waitress looking at your phone. And I'm also the person who can see exactly how they're robbing you blind. More silence. She heard him breathing. Fast, shallow. How much? 47 million so far. They're not stopping. A sound like a fist hitting wood. That's impossible. Our security. Your security didn't catch it. I did. She paused. Mr. Cole, I studied cybersecurity in college. I know what I'm looking at. And what I'm looking at is someone inside your company committing the perfect crime. Inside. His voice dropped to something dangerous. You're telling me this is one of my people? Ava scrolled through the access logs. Her stomach twisted. Not just one of your people. Someone high up. Someone with executive clearance. She found the username buried in the code. Does the name Marcus Harper mean anything to you? The silence stretched so long she thought the call dropped. Then Richard's voice came back, quiet, broken. Marcus is my CFO. He's been with me for 12 years. Well, he's been planning this for at least 6 months based on these preparation files. And tonight's the night he burns it all down. Have you ever trusted someone completely? Only to discover they were destroying you the whole time? Drop a comment if betrayal ever blindsided you like this. And if you're not subscribed yet, why not? Hit that button because this story gets even more intense. Walk me through what you're seeing. Richard's voice shifted. Shock giving way to something harder. Survival mode. Ava started talking. Technical details poured out. IP addresses, timestamp markers, transfer protocols. She surprised herself with how much she remembered. How quickly it came back. Richard typed on his end. She could hear keys clicking. I need you to forward everything to this email address, he said. Can you do that? Yes, but Mr. Cole, there's something else. Her eyes caught another detail that made her hands shake. There's a scheduled command set to execute at 6 a.m. It's going to wipe your primary servers. Not just the financial data. Everything. Patents. Research. Client information. They're not just stealing money. They're erasing you. Jesus. You have less than 6 hours. Can you stop it? Could she? Ava stared at the screen. Her certification was 3 years out of date. She hadn't touched real security work since dropping out. She was a waitress who made $8.50 an hour plus tips. But those files were right there. The kill switch command was visible. And nobody else knew it existed. I can try, she said. But I need you to trust me. And I need you to move fast. What do you need? First, don't tell anyone what we're doing. If Marcus suspects you know, he'll trigger the wipe early. Done. Second, I need you to get to your office computer and give me remote access through a secure line. That's against every protocol. Mr. Cole, your protocols are what got you robbed. Your protocols have a backdoor that someone's been exploiting for months. Right now, I'm the only person who sees the whole picture. So do you want to follow protocols? Or do you want to save your company? Silence. Then, tell me what to do. The jazz music played on. The lights hummed. And Ava Thompson, waitress, dropout, forgotten dreamer, became the only thing standing between a billionaire and total destruction. She pulled up a chair. Opened the security interface. Let her fingers remember what her life had forced her to forget. Okay, she said. Let's hunt a traitor. What happens when everything you learned suddenly matters again? When the skills you thought were useless become someone's only hope? Stick around, because the next 60 minutes will show you how one honest choice can echo across thousands of lives. Richard's phone went dark. He stared at the screen, alone in his office, the city sprawling below him like a circuit board. Ava's voice had been his lifeline for the past 20 minutes. Now, silence. Ava. Static. Then her voice crackled back. Still here. Your network just tried to boot me out. Someone's scanning for unusual activity. Marcus. Who else? Keys clicked on her end. He's looking for ghosts in the system. Good thing I know how to stay invisible. Richard grabbed his car keys. I'm coming to you. No. Sharp. Final. You go to your office. I stay here. We work faster apart. That's insane. You're in a diner with a phone that's not yours, trying to stop a corporate heist. And you're a CEO who just lost $47 million because you forgot where you ate dinner. We've both had better nights. A pause. Get moving. Clock's ticking. He moved. The parking garage elevator smelled like oil and concrete. Richard jabbed the button for the 47th floor. His reflection in the polished doors looked like a stranger. Disheveled, desperate. Nothing like the man whose face smiled from the lobby portrait. His phone buzzed. Marcus Harper. Saw your car pull in. Everything okay? Ice flooded Richard's veins. He typed back. Couldn't sleep. Prep work for tomorrow. 3 dots. Marcus typing. Marcus Harper. Want company? I'm in the conference room. We could run numbers. The elevator doors opened. Richard stepped into darkness and locked his office door behind him. Ava. He knows I'm here. Then we have less time than I thought. Boot up your computer. And Richard. Don't turn on the overhead lights. Why? Because someone paranoid enough to build a dead man switch is paranoid enough to watch power consumption patterns. Your office suddenly lighting up at 1 a.m.? That's a red flag. Smart. Terrifyingly smart for a waitress he'd never met. Richard used his desk lamp. The small circle of light felt like a spotlight on his failure. I'm in, he whispered. Good. Now give me access. He hesitated. Every instinct screamed this was wrong. Handing system control to a stranger based on a phone call and desperation. But what choice did he have? He typed the admin credentials. Ava's presence flooded his screen. Windows opening, code scrolling, commands executing faster than he could track. How are you doing that? He asked. You really want a lesson right now? Fair point. Back at the diner, Ava's world had narrowed to 2 glowing screens. Richard's phone. Her own laptop she'd grabbed from her car. An ancient machine held together with hope and duct tape. The breach architecture spread before her like a map of betrayal. Marcus hadn't just stolen money. He'd been meticulous. Patient. Brilliant. She almost admired it. Almost. Her fingers flew across keys, tracing data paths, following digital breadcrumbs Marcus thought he'd hidden. Each command she executed was a gamble. One wrong move and the whole system could lock down. Or worse, trigger the wipe early. She found the next transfer staging. 22 million, queued to execute in 18 minutes. Richard, he's accelerating. Another transfer incoming. Can you stop it? Working on it. She built a shadow process, a ghost command that would intercept the transfer authorization and reroute it back into the company accounts. Marcus would see the command execute. He'd think it succeeded. But the money would never leave. Magic trick. Sleight of hand. Digital illusion. She hit enter. The transfer initiated. Processed. Completed. Marcus's screen would show success. The money stayed put. Got it, she breathed. Richard's relief was audible. How many more? At least 3. But Richard. She scrolled deeper into the malware structure. There's something else. A secondary program I missed. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't just a theft. This was a murder. Buried in the code, hidden behind encryption layers and false directories, was a complete data extraction protocol. Every patent Cole Dynamics owned. Every research file. Every proprietary algorithm. All of it copied, packaged, and ready to transmit to an external server. She checked the destination IP. Helix Corporation. Richard's biggest competitor. He's been selling your patents, Ava said quietly. For months. Maybe years. Every breakthrough your company made, every innovation. Marcus gave them the blueprints before you even filed the paperwork. Silence. Then Richard's voice, hollow. I trusted him with everything. I know. He was at my wedding. He held my daughter when she was born. When my wife died, he was the first person I called. Ava heard the crack in his voice. The kind of break that comes when your foundation turns to sand. She'd heard that sound before. In her own voice. The day she dropped out of college and watched her future evaporate. Some betrayals don't announce themselves. They just hollow you out from the inside until there's nothing left but the shape of what you used to believe. Drop a comment if someone you loved ever sold you out. And subscribe, not for us, but so you don't miss how this story ends. Richard's screen flashed. New message. Marcus Harper. I know what you're doing, Richard. I can see your digital signature all over the system. Stop now and we can talk. Keep going and you lose everything. Ava saw it too. He's bluffing. He can't see us. I'm masking our activity. Then how does he know? Because you're predictable. He's been watching you for 12 years. He knows when you panic, you go to your office. He knows when you're scared, you try to take control. He's betting on your patterns. Richard stared at the message. His hand hovered over the keyboard. What do I say? Nothing. Let him sweat. Silence is the only move he won't expect. But Marcus wasn't waiting. Another message appeared. Marcus Harper. Conference room. 5 minutes. Come alone. Or I trigger the wipe and you can explain to 15,000 people why they're unemployed by breakfast. Ava's eyes found the countdown embedded in the malware code. 1 hour. 41 minutes. If Marcus felt cornered, he'd detonate early. Everything they'd done would be worthless. What if he's serious? Richard asked. He is serious. That's the problem. Ava bit her lip, thinking. But he's also desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. So what do we do? You go to that conference room. You buy me time. And while you're keeping him talking, I'm going to dismantle his entire operation from the inside. That's your plan. I distract him while you play hero. You got a better one? Richard didn't. He stood. His legs felt weak. His hands shook. In 30 years of business, he'd faced hostile takeovers, market crashes, and corporate sabotage. None of it compared to walking into a room with a man he'd trusted like a brother, knowing that man wanted him destroyed. Ava. Yeah. If this goes wrong. It won't. But if it does, I want you to know you tried. That matters. She heard what he wasn't saying. The same thing she'd told herself 3 years ago when she'd walked away from her dreams. Sometimes trying isn't enough. Sometimes you lose anyway. But she didn't say that. Instead, don't you dare give up on me, Richard Cole. We're not losing tonight. Now go. And keep your phone in your pocket with the line open. I'll be listening to everything. Richard walked to the door. Unlocked it. Stepped into the hallway. The conference room waited at the end. Light spilling from under the door like a trap already sprung. He walked toward it. Behind him, his office computer screen glowed with Ava's ghost commands, working invisibly to save everything he'd built. Ahead of him, Marcus Harper sat in the darkness, waiting to take it all away. What happens when you have to face the person who destroyed you? Comment below. And if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Act 3 is where everything explodes. The conference room door stood open. Marcus sat at the head of the table, 3 monitors casting blue light across his face. His tie hung loose. Sleeves rolled to the elbows. He looked like a man who'd already won and was just waiting for everyone else to realize it. Close the door, Richard. Richard obeyed. His hand trembled on the handle. Marcus nodded toward a chair. Sit. I'll stand. Always so dramatic. Marcus typed something. A file opened on the center screen. Coal Dynamics' complete financial collapse, mapped out in graphs and projections. 12 years. That's how long I've been fixing your mistakes, covering your blind spots, making you look competent to people who should have seen through you in 6 months. Richard's jaw tightened. Is that what you tell yourself? That I'm incompetent? I don't have to tell myself anything. The data speaks. Marcus gestured to the screens. Every major decision you made, I corrected. Every investor you nearly lost, I saved. Every patent you wanted to abandon, I salvaged. You were the smile. I was the substance. Then why not just leave? Start your own company. Because leaving would have been honest. Marcus leaned forward. And honesty doesn't pay what I'm owed. In Richard's pocket, his phone recorded every syllable. Miles away, Ava listened through the open line, her fingers already tracing new pathways through the system Marcus thought he controlled. Who helped you tonight? Marcus asked suddenly. No one. Liar. You can't even reset your own password without calling IT. Someone's in the system right now. I can feel the signature. Clean code, elegant logic, almost artistic. His eyes narrowed. Female. Mid-20s. Probably self-taught based on the unorthodox routing protocols. Ava's breath caught. He'd profiled her from her coding style. She shifted tactics immediately. Adopted Messier commands. Introduced deliberate inefficiencies. Became someone else digitally. Marcus continued typing. Doesn't matter. She's working on the decoy operation. The real protocols are buried 3 layers deeper than anything she'll find in 90 minutes. Richard's throat constricted. What protocols? The ones that execute at 5 a.m. whether you stop the transfers or not. The ones that delete everything. Patents, research, client databases. Scorched earth. Marcus pulled up a terminal window. Code scrolled past. Vicious and beautiful. Your mystery helper can stop the theft. She can't stop the erasure. No one can. He tapped a key. A new countdown appeared. 58 minutes. Here's your option, Richard. You authorize a $75 million consulting fee to this account. He slid paper across the table. I stopped the deletion. Everyone keeps their jobs. You get to keep pretending you built something meaningful. Or you refuse. And by breakfast your company is a Wikipedia entry about hubris. The paper sat between them like a live grenade. Richard stared at the account number. At the routing code. At the price of betrayal written in his CFO's handwriting. Why 75? He asked. Because that's what you cost me. 12 years at market rate for someone with my skills. Minus what you actually paid me. I'm being generous. I'm not charging interest. Someone this calculated didn't act on impulse. This wasn't revenge. This was a business transaction where the product being sold was Richard's entire life. Drop a comment. What's the price of your loyalty? And subscribe because what happens in the next 60 seconds will detonate everything. Ava found the real protocols. Marcus was right. They were buried. Encrypted. Protected by authentication layers she'd need hours to crack. She had 56 minutes. Her eyes scanned the architecture. Every security expert she'd studied in college had taught the same principle. Complex systems have simple kill switches. Find the switch, you control the system. But Marcus wasn't simple. He was paranoid. Meticulous. Which meant he'd built redundancies for his redundancies. Unless. She pulled up the authentication logs. Traced the verification pathways. Found something that made her pulse spike. Every protocol, decoy and real, checked against one master validation server before executing. Marcus had centralized his control to maintain oversight. One server. One point of failure. She couldn't crack the encryption in time. But she could corrupt the validator itself. Poison the well instead of fighting each stream. Her fingers flew. She built a cascading authentication loop. A piece of code that would make the validator check its own identity repeatedly until it locked itself out. Digital Ouroboros. The snake eating its own tail until it choked. Elegant. Vicious. The kind of hack that would get her arrested or recruited depending on who found out. She deployed it. The validator stuttered. Began the loop. 15 authentication checks per second. 30. 60. The system load spiked. Processing power diverted from protocols to identity verification. Marcus's terminal flashed a warning. His eyes darted to the notification. Clever girl, he murmured. But predictable. He typed rapidly. A countermeasure activated. The validation loop collapsed. Ava's screen showed the protocols resuming normal operation. She'd failed. Marcus smiled at Richard. Your friend just tried a cascade attack. Textbook strategy. I built defenses against it 6 months ago. He stood. You have until 5 a.m. After that, the choice is made for you. He walked toward the door. Richard's mind raced. Every move they'd made, Marcus had anticipated. Every attack, he'd neutralized. They were playing chess against someone who'd memorized the board. Wait. Marcus paused at the threshold. My daughter called you Uncle Marcus. I remember. You held her when she was 3 months old. Told me she had my eyes. She does. My wife died, and you sat with me for 6 hours in that hospital room. Didn't say a word. Just sat there. Marcus's expression didn't change. That was years ago. Was any of it real? Richard's voice cracked. The friendship. The partnership. Or was I always just the mark? For 3 seconds, something shifted in Marcus's face. Not quite regret. Not quite humanity. Something harder to name. It started real, he said quietly. But somewhere around year 4, I realized you'd never see me as an equal. I'd always be the number 2. The support. The footnote in your success story. The moment passed. So I stopped trying to earn what you'd never give me. I took it instead. He left. The door closed. Richard stood in the empty conference room, surrounded by monitors displaying his own execution countdown. Ava. Silence. Ava, please tell me you have something. Her voice came back small. Defeated. I have one idea. But Richard, if this works, we commit wire fraud, unauthorized system access, and about 6 other federal crimes. And if it doesn't work? Then Marcus retires wealthy, and we both go to prison anyway. Richard looked at the countdown. 51 minutes. Tell me the plan. 4:19 a.m. 41 minutes until deletion. Ava stared at her screen. The cascade attack had failed. The protocols were active. Marcus's defenses held. She needed something he wouldn't see coming. Something that violated every rule she'd learned. Richard, I need you to pay him. What? The $75 million. Authorize the transfer. All of it. Ava, that's insane. Marcus built his entire defense around us trying to stop him. Firewalls. Encryption. Redundancies. Everything assumes we're fighting. She pulled up the transfer authorization interface. But what if we don't fight? What if we surrender? Richard's mind caught up. You want him to think he won. The second that money hits his account, his attention shifts. Defense becomes escape planning. Monitoring becomes celebration. And that's when I stop fighting his system and start using it. Using it how? His protocols expect resistance. They're designed to survive attacks, route around obstacles, adapt to interference. But they're not designed to handle cooperation. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. I'm going to feed his deletion protocols exactly what they want. Confirmation that everything's working perfectly. And while they're executing their successful deletion, I'll redirect what they're actually deleting. Richard tried to follow. Redirect it where? Into a dummy partition I'm building right now. They'll delete everything. Server logs, timestamps, file markers. Everything that makes them think they succeeded. But the actual data, that stays untouched in a hidden backup Marcus doesn't know exists. It was brilliant. Insane. The digital equivalent of letting someone think they'd killed you while you relocated your consciousness. How long do you need? 5 minutes after the transfer clears. Maybe 4 if I'm lucky. Richard pulled up his banking portal. The number stared back at him. $75, 000,000. Enough to fund startups, buy buildings, change lives, or buy back his own. He entered Marcus's account details, verified the routing, positioned his cursor over the confirmation button. If this fails... Stop. Ava's voice was steel. We're not losing. Authorize the transfer and let me work. He clicked. The screen processed. Transfer complete. $75 million. Somewhere in that building, Marcus Harper's phone lit up with a notification that changed the game. Marcus stared at the confirmation. 75 million. Clean. Immediate. Done. He'd won. The realization settled over him like silence after thunder. All the planning, all the contingencies, all the late nights building defenses against scenarios that never materialized. And Richard had just given up. Marcus exhaled. His shoulders dropped. He pulled up the deletion protocols and entered the abort sequence. No need to destroy everything now. The money was his. The patents were sold. Mission accomplished. He typed the shutdown command. That's when Ava moved. The instant Marcus shifted from defense to cleanup. His monitoring relaxed. Firewalls deprioritized threat detection. Systems assumed victory and lowered their guard. She slipped through the gap like smoke through a keyhole. Her ghost process infiltrated the deletion protocols. Didn't stop them, that would trigger alarms. Instead, she became them. Merged with their code. Rode them like a parasite. The protocols began their deletion sequence, reporting success at every stage. But Ava had redirected their target. They were deleting the dummy partition, files she'd created in the last 4 minutes. Server logs that meant nothing. Timestamps that led nowhere. Data corpses designed to die. Meanwhile, the real information, patents, research, client databases, sat untouched in a shadow backup Marcus's own protocols would never detect because they thought their job was complete. One by one, the deletion protocols shut themselves down. Mission accomplished. System clean. Victory achieved. Except none of it was real. But Ava wasn't done. She traced Marcus's patent transfers. Found the Helix Corporation server where he'd sent Cole Dynamics' stolen research. And she corrupted it. Not obviously. Not immediately. She embedded code that would degrade the files slowly. Introduce errors, scramble formulas, swap variables. In 3 months, when Helix tried to use their expensive purchase, they'd discover they'd bought garbage wrapped in gold foil. Marcus would have his money. Helix would have their patents. And neither would realize the trap until it was too late. She typed one final command. Reversed the $75 million transfer. Transaction error. Authorization failure. The money bounced back to Cole Dynamics. Ava leaned back in her chair, exhausted. Richard. It's done. The deletion never happened. His protocols think they succeeded. The data's safe. And Marcus's payment just evaporated. Richard felt his legs weaken. He sat down hard in the conference room chair. The patents he sold. Poisoned. Helix will pay him, realize they bought trash, and Marcus will have both companies hunting him. How did you? Later. Right now, call building security. And Richard. Make sure they record everything. We're documenting this perfectly. Marcus's screen flashed red. Transfer reversal in progress. Authentication failure. His hands froze on the keyboard. Impossible. The transfer had cleared. The protocols had executed. The deletion had completed. He pulled up his monitoring systems. Found Ava's signature everywhere. In his validators. His protocols. His authentication servers. She hadn't fought him. She'd let him win. Then changed what winning meant. The conference room door opened. Building security. 2 uniforms. Hands near their weapons. Marcus Harper, you need to come with us. Behind them, Richard stood in the hallway. His face showed exhaustion. Betrayal. Something that might have been pity. I trusted you, Richard said. Marcus looked at the man who'd been his friend for 12 years. Saw the disappointment. The confusion. The grief. I know, Marcus replied. That's what made it possible. They handcuffed him. Read his rights. Led him past his office. Past the conference room where he'd tried to execute the perfect crime. As the elevator doors closed, Marcus caught his reflection in the polished metal. He looked exactly like what he was. Someone who'd calculated everything except the one variable that mattered. The sky outside shifted from black to gray to gold. Richard drove through empty streets toward a diner he'd left 4 hours ago. The city was waking up. Delivery trucks, early commuters, people starting days that would never know how close they'd come to disaster. His phone sat in the cup holder. Silent now. The voice that had guided him through the darkness gone quiet. He pulled into the diner parking lot. Through the window, he could see her. Still at the same table. Laptop open. 2 phones. Coffee cup empty. Ava looked up as he walked in. Their eyes met. This was the woman who'd saved 15,000 jobs from a phone booth. Who'd outsmarted a criminal who'd spent years planning. Who'd done all of it for no reason except that it was right. Richard sat across from her. Hi. Hi. I'm Richard. I know. She smiled. Tired. Real. I'm Ava. I know. They sat in silence for a moment. The weight of the night settling between them. Thank you, Richard finally said. For everything. Thank you for trusting me. She closed her laptop. For the record, I have no idea what happens now. Neither do I. But Ava. Richard leaned forward. I know what should happen. And if you'll let me, I'd like to start making it right. Outside, the sun broke over the horizon. Inside, 2 people who'd saved each other began talking about futures that didn't exist 4 hours ago. Ever had one night change your entire trajectory? Comment below. And subscribe. Act 5 is where transformation happens. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered. Richard slid into the booth. Ava sat with her laptop closed, 2 phones on the table, empty coffee cup between them like evidence of the night they'd survived. Hi, he said. Hi. Neither spoke for a moment. The silence held weight, the kind that settles after crisis passes and reality starts rebuilding itself. Richard gestured toward her screens. Show me what you did. The actual code. Ava hesitated. Then opened her laptop. Commands scrolled past. Logic flows. Authentication bypasses that shouldn't exist but did because she'd built them in real time while Marcus thought he was winning. Richard leaned closer. His eyes tracked the architecture. This is graduate-level work. Where did you learn this? State University. Dropped out year 3. Why? Ava's fingers rested on the keyboard. She could deflect. Change the subject. Give him the sanitized version people preferred. Instead, my mother needed treatment we couldn't afford. My brother needed someone to sign his FAFSA forms and pack his lunches and make sure he didn't give up on college just because I had to. So I left school and started serving eggs to people who don't look waitresses in the eye. Your mother died 6 months later. Turns out sacrifice doesn't come with guarantees. She met his gaze. But my brother's starting MIT in the fall on full scholarship. So maybe it wasn't completely wasted. Richard's throat tightened. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't pay bills or rewind time or give you back the future you traded for someone else's present. She closed the laptop. But it's done. I made the choice. I'd make it again. Even knowing how it turned out. Especially knowing how it turned out. The waitress refilled their coffee. Neither touched it. What were you studying? Richard asked. Before. Cybersecurity. Penetration testing. I was good at breaking into places I wasn't supposed to be. A half smile. Tonight proved that skill doesn't expire. Tonight proved you're better than anyone on my payroll. Your payroll wasn't fighting for their lives. I was. Were you, though? Richard tilted his head. You could have walked away, dropped the phone in Lost and Found, gone home. No one would have blamed you. I would have blamed me. Why? Ava picked up her phone, turned it over in her hands. My grandmother raised me after my parents divorced. She cleaned houses for rich families in the suburbs. Came home exhausted every night, smelling like other people's lemon furniture polish. And every single night she'd tell me the same thing. Baby girl, character is what you do when it costs you something. Free choices don't count. She set the phone down. Helping you cost me sleep and peace of mind and possibly a criminal record. But walking away would have cost me the ability to look at myself in the mirror. So I picked the expensive option. Richard studied her. This woman who'd saved 15,000 jobs because her grandmother cleaned houses and taught her that expensive choices were the only ones worth making. I want to offer you something, he said. And I need you to listen before you decide it's charity or pity or anything except what it actually is. Ava's shoulders tensed. Director of Cybersecurity. Coal Dynamics. 6-figure salary. Full benefits. And time during work hours to finish your degree on the company's dime. The words hung in the air like a detonation waiting to happen. You don't know me, Ava said carefully. Tonight was one crisis. That doesn't mean I'm qualified to. You took down someone who'd spent 12 years learning our systems. You did it in 90 minutes with equipment held together by duct tape and determination. If that's not qualified, the word has no meaning. Richard. 15,000 people are waking up right now to go to jobs that exist because you answered a phone. 15,000 families who still have healthcare and mortgages and futures. He leaned forward. That's not luck. That's you. And I'm not offering you charity. I'm offering you what you already earned. Ava's hands gripped the table edge. Her knuckles went white. What if I fail? The words came out barely audible. What if tonight was a fluke and I'm not actually? Then you fail forward and try again. But Ava, I've seen hundreds of talented people. You know what separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't. He waited until she looked up. It's not intelligence. It's showing up when no one else can. You showed up tonight. That's not talent. That's character. And character doesn't fail. Sunlight streamed through the windows now. Morning had arrived while they'd been talking. The city outside moved. Trucks delivering, commuters commuting, 15,000 people heading to work in a building that almost didn't exist. I need time, Ava said. Take it. And Richard. If I say yes, I'm not doing it because I'm grateful. I'm doing it because I'm good enough. I know. She stood. Extended her hand. I'll call you in 3 days. He shook it. Felt calluses from years of carrying trays and cleaning tables and surviving. 3 days, he agreed. 72 hours later, Ava walked into the Coal Dynamics lobby wearing a blazer her brother had bought her with his first MIT scholarship stipend. Said it was payment for every lunch she'd packed and every college essay she'd proofread when she should have been studying for her own exams. The elevator climbed. 47 floors. She watched the numbers and remembered tracking Richard's GPS coordinates while he raced through empty streets toward salvation. The doors opened. Richard stood waiting. You came. I did. Does that mean? It means show me the office before I change my mind. He led her down a corridor lined with glass walls and important people making important decisions. At the end, a corner office with windows overlooking the city. A desk with 3 monitors. A bookshelf waiting to be filled. A nameplate that read, AVA Thompson, Director of Cybersecurity. She stopped at the threshold. This is yours, Richard said. If you want it. Ava walked to the windows. Below, the city spread out like circuitry. Complex, interconnected, fragile in ways only certain people could see. I've never had my name on anything, she said quietly. Not a door. Not a desk. Not anything that mattered. Then let's fix that. She turned. Why me? Really? You could hire MIT graduates, Stanford experts, people with credentials that mean something. I could. But those people would have followed protocol. They would have called security and filed reports and done everything right. He walked to stand beside her. You did everything necessary. There's a difference. And that difference saved us. Ava looked at her reflection in the window, saw the waitress she'd been, saw the director she was becoming, saw the space between them closing. Okay, she said. I'm in. Richard extended his hand. Welcome to Coal Dynamics. She shook it, felt the weight of the moment. Two people whose lives had collided in darkness and emerged transformed. One condition, she added. Name it. We start a scholarship program. For students who had to drop out because of money. Not students who failed. Students who succeeded but couldn't afford to continue. We find them. We fund them. We give them what I should have had 3 years ago. Richard smiled. I'll have HR draft the proposal by Monday. Good. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, a woman who'd answered a stranger's phone at midnight stepped into the office with her name on the door and started becoming the person she'd always known she could be. Ever had one choice to rewrite your entire trajectory? Drop your story below. Subscribe now, because Act 6 shows you what transformation looks like when you refuse to stay small. 6 months later, Ava stood in the Coal Dynamics Security Operations Center, analyzing overnight threat logs on the main screen. Around her, 8 analysts worked stations she'd designed, monitoring protocols she'd built, following procedures she'd written. Unusual access pattern on the patent server, called Marcus Kim, her lead analyst. 23. Carnegie Mellon graduate. Eager and brilliant in ways that reminded her of who she used to be. She pulled up the logs, scanned the data flow. Dr. Patel pulling quarterly research. Happens every earnings report. But good eye, flag routine executive access differently so we're not chasing false positives. On it. Her phone buzzed. Richard. Board meeting. 20 minutes. Need you. She handed monitoring to her second-in-command and headed upstairs. The boardroom had changed since Marcus Harper's arrest. New faces. New oversight. New policies about financial controls and whistleblower protections. Betrayal sometimes forces you to rebuild better. Richard nodded as she entered. Around the table, executives who'd questioned hiring a college dropout 6 months ago. They'd stopped questioning after she stopped a ransomware attack 90 seconds before it hit critical systems. Item 7, Richard announced. Expansion of the scholarship initiative. Director Thompson's been running a pilot with community colleges. Results have been exceptional. He pulled up her presentation. Faces appeared on screen. Students who looked like Ava 3 years ago. Hungry. Talented. Stopped by circumstances instead of ability. 17 students placed. 12 now full-time. Retention rate 94%. Higher than our traditional recruitment. He looked at her. Director Thompson. She walked to the front. 6 months ago, addressing a boardroom would have paralyzed her. Now she belonged here. We target students forced out by financial hardship. Not failure, hardship. They've already proven they'll sacrifice for education. We're removing the barriers. She clicked to the next slide. Metrics. Productivity indices. Innovation rates. People who fought for opportunities don't waste them. They work harder because they remember what it cost to get here. They contribute more because they know what it means to have nothing. Questions came. She answered them. The vote was unanimous. Expansion approved. Funding secured. 20 more students getting chances they'd earned. After the meeting, Richard caught her in the corridor. Well done. I told them the truth. The truth was persuasive. He paused. We've had inquiries. 3 companies want to know how we rebuilt after Marcus. How we transformed security. They're asking about you specifically. What kind of inquiries? Speaking engagements. Consulting. You've become the person everyone wants to learn from. Ava considered that. 6 months ago, she'd been invisible. Now people wanted her expertise. Maybe, she said. But Richard, whatever happens, I want to remember where this started. That diner. That phone. That moment when everything could have gone wrong. I remember it every day. They stood in the hallway. Executive and director. Two people whose collision had rewritten both their futures. You changed my life, he said. You gave me mine back. We're even. Not even close. But we've got time to work on the balance. That evening, Ava drove to Rosie's diner. She sat in the same booth. Ordered the same terrible coffee. The jazz still played from speakers nobody maintained. But everything else had transformed. She wore a tailored suit instead of an apron. Drove a car that started reliably. Carried business cards with her name embossed in silver. The waitress, 19, exhausted, community college textbooks stacked on the counter, brought her check. Ava watched her move between tables. Saw herself. The person she'd been before a forgotten phone had detonated her life in the best possible way. When the bill came, Ava left 5/20s. And her business card. On the back, she'd written in careful script, "Character is expensive. Call me if you're ready to pay the price. A.T." The waitress picked it up. Read it. Looked at Ava with confusion shifting into something that might have been hope. Ava nodded once. Left. Outside, the city glowed. Glass buildings reflected streetlights and headlights and the constant motion of people intersecting in patterns too complex to predict. She thought about Marcus Harper in federal prison. About Richard rebuilding with better foundations. About her brother at MIT studying aerospace engineering. About 15,000 people working in a building that had almost become a footnote. All because she'd answered a phone. One choice. Everything changed. Her phone buzzed. "Richard, drinks tomorrow to celebrate the board approval?" She replied, "Only if the coffee's terrible and the company's honest." 3 dots. Deal. Ava drove through streets she used to fear she'd never escape. Past the hospital where her mother had died. Past the apartment where she'd cried over bills she couldn't pay. Past the community college where she'd once studied before life interrupted. She'd finished her degree. Online. Nights and weekends. Between building security systems and mentoring students and learning to occupy space she'd earned. Sacrifice doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes it means the long way home. She pulled into her apartment complex. Nothing extravagant. But hers. Paid for with money she'd earned doing work that mattered. Inside, framed certificates on walls. Plans for next quarter's expansion on her desk. Actual food in the refrigerator. But on her nightstand, the phone. Richard's phone. The device that had recorded Marcus's confession. The evidence that had saved everything. She'd asked to keep it. He'd agreed. Not because it was valuable. Because it was proof. Proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to walk away. That one honest choice can echo across thousands of lives. That courage doesn't always announce itself with trumpets. Sometimes it just answers when everyone else stays silent. Ava picked up the phone. Held it. Remembered its weight that night. The fear. The uncertainty. The decision to get involved when walking away would have been safer. She'd chosen expensive. Chosen hard. Chosen right. Her grandmother had been correct all along. Outside, the city moved. Inside, a woman who'd saved a company by answering a stranger's phone finally understood what her grandmother had spent a lifetime teaching. Character is what you do when it costs you something. Free choices don't count. Ava set the phone down. Turned off the light. And slept the kind of sleep that comes from knowing you've paid the price and earned your place. One expensive choice at a time. If opportunity called at midnight, would you answer? Tell us below. Subscribe if you believe second chances are real and character still matters. Because stories like this prove both are true.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.